Is there any likelihood, do you think, of this following the similar path that we saw in Northern Ireland?
Well, first of all, my problem with Tony Blair putting aside his record as a war criminal with this analogy to Ireland is, in the case of Ireland, you don't have a dispute about the recognition of people's right to self-determination. That sort of underpins the conflict. There's an awareness there that in Ireland that the people of Northern Ireland are a people who have certain rights. In the case of Palestine, as we're discussing here, what I'm hearing from Mark and Shabbos is a complete lack of awareness. The Palestinians are living under a brutal military occupation. Either you recognize that or you don't. If you don't recognize that, you're going to have continued disaster for the entire region and continued misery, foremost for the Palestinian people. If you recognize, as most of the world does, pretty much the entire world, with the exception of the US and Israel, the Palestinians have been living under one of the most brutal, longest military occupations in the world and have been denied their basic rights. If you don't recognize that, you're not going to solve the problem. And Trump's so-called peace plan does nothing to address that. When it comes to the issue of Palestine self-determination and Palestinian statehood, there's one line. It says, we recognize Palestinian self-determination and statehood as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. If you recognize something as an aspiration, but not as a right, you have no obligation to grant it. And the message from Israel, if you listen to Netanyahu, is that there will be no recognition. And he has the full backing of the US in that. And that's not just a Trump thing. This has been bipartisan US policy for decades.
So I want to get into this because, look, I knew this conversation was going to be good. I didn't realize it was going to be this good, but I really want to get into what people were looking at. There was actually a conversation on Piers Morgan that they were actually discussing about the Gaza ceasefire that happened, that was facilitated by Trump. One of the first things I want to do is I want to show Palestinians thanking Trump for this. Let's just go over this really quick, and then we'll go into the Piers Morgan video.
I love this video. I saw this.
Trump for the ceasefire. Let's thank him in the right way. Thank you for giving the IDF billions of dollars to define themselves from our children. Thank you for using the veto not once, 10 times to make sure the bombs falling for us. Veto. Thank you for sending smart muscle. It's so smart. Always find their way to our children. Thank you for calling it self-defense. I didn't know defense mean bombing school and hospitals. And thank you for your silence. It's so louder than an exploitation we hear.
I actually felt bad at first laughing at this because it's so dark. And also I love that the Palestinians have such a great sense of humor. Like I feel such a kinship with them. I love that video. I love it. Like I feel, like I said, a little bit bad laughing at it because it's so dark and he's in the ruins of Gaza. But it was also so funny because it was so on point.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for what, bitch?
Yeah. And yeah, that's just why I think it's absolutely imperative that we keep talking about it. And that's one thing I appreciate. And one of the things you notice about people who especially go through a lot of atrocity and hard times, they tend to be the funniest, right?
That's
and
true.
So Palestinians, man, I mean, the sense of humor is great. I just wish that it didn't have to come at the cost of them going through this Holocaust that's been going on for literally over 70 years.
Yeah.
I just wish it didn't come at that cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've always said the same thing about like so many, especially lower class Black people that I've known. Like some of the most like working class, lower class Black people that I've known have been some of the funniest because they have such a wonderful sense of humor with the shit that they've been through that they're just funnier than like people who haven't been through things.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be unfunny and boring and stuffy too. Damn it.
I want to be lame. Look, I'm wearing a tie. Please let me.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to be looking all formal.
It's so funny that you say that too, because when I'm like when people get mad that like we'll be talking about this kind of stuff, I'm like, do you think that I didn't just want to have my content be like get readies with me and my desire to have plastic surgery? You think that's what I didn't want? I didn't want to just live my life this way. No, you guys are forcing our hands by making life so unbearable. Like
Look, fam. Ooh, we can talk about that all. Look, I'm gonna have to have you back on for a 3-hour stream because we can talk about that all day.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this. All right, so we're gonna pass through the intro and we're gonna get straight into it. All right, let's go.
I was watching it all from early this morning in London, and I've got to say, I felt a sense of great relief and joy at watching the hostages freed and reunited with their families. Incredibly moving scenes there. Joy for the Palestinian people, the innocent Palestinian people caught up in 2 years of hellish war. And of course, the release of several thousand Palestinians from Israeli prisons as well. You know, overall, the feeling today was extremely joyous and I would argue hopeful. What's your thought?
Cautious, very cautious optimism, especially given some of the statements that we've heard from the Israelis over the weekend. You know, Benjamin Netanyahu gave a speech to the Americans that made it appear as though he believed in the ceasefire and was going to follow through with it. Remember, they've only agreed to the first stage of the ceasefire, and the rest of it is still incredibly murky. But then on Israeli television, he spoke in Hebrew and talked about how the military operation isn't over yet. Then you have Israel Katz talking about how as soon as we secure the release of all the hostages, we're going to go back in and destroy the tunnels. So there are some signs that make me a little uneasy, but I will say this. I was happy to see the hostages released. The videos of them reunited with their family members are incredibly moving. The innocent Palestinians you're referring to, though, are going home to raised communities, raised neighborhoods. They have no home to go back to. So I'm concerned about them and their well-being. That being said, it does appear that there's some humanitarian aid being allowed into the Gaza Strip. It remains to be seen if it's enough in order to help people who have been intentionally starved for months.
Do you give Donald Trump full credit for making this happen?
Well, no, I don't, because this is the same ceasefire that could have been agreed upon over a year ago, and it wasn't. So the real question is, what changed? Why did Donald Trump, basically put his foot down finally after tens of thousands of innocent people were killed, after, obviously there was the ground invasion in Gaza City, which has also been leveled. It's laughable to hear him talk about deserving a Nobel Peace Prize as he's ramping up a war with Venezuela under false pretenses. So, look, I'm not going to give Trump credit because, again, he could have done this a year ago, or at the beginning of his administration, I should say, and he refused to do it. By the way, the same for Biden. It's the same ceasefire agreement that Biden rejected that we're now learning, thanks to reporting from Israel, by the way. So it is what it is.
All right, Shavel.
So I just want to get your thoughts on what Anna Kasparian said in regards to her hope for the ceasefire. That I think this was the day of the ceasefire, and so that's probably when this was last. This was recorded. So, what are your thoughts?
That she's right. That is bullshit. I mean, they're already doing it. I don't know if you saw today that all the usual suspect trash bags in Zionist media are already pumping out story after story claiming that Hamas broke the ceasefire. That, Hamas said they were going to lay down their arms and they're already violating the ceasefire. No, they didn't. They never said they were going to lay down their arms. That was not a part of the ceasefire. It was not a part of the phase 1 ceasefire. Trump even said it. Trump even said, as they're spreading all this propaganda saying look at Hamas is executing Palestinians now. Where's the ceasefire now, people? Trump even said, yeah, we knew that they were going to go after some of the turncoat people, and we're going to let it happen because we don't want chaos to ensue in the Strip. He said something to that effect in a tweet where he was asked about it on Air Force One, right? And so they're lying about it. But that's not stopping the New York Post and all the other $7,000 Club Zionist influencers from getting online and lying and fixing their fucking faces to go, they already broke the ceasefire. They're manufacturing consent in real time right now to go back into Gaza. They're doing what they always do. They're lying. They're saying that Hamas broke the ceasefire. They're talking about we need to get rid of the tunnels now. And they're going to use this lie that they're now pushing in all of our Zionist media to go back into Gaza and to continually break the ceasefire, just like they lied about the journalist Salah al-Jafawari, just like they lied about him. Oh, he was just killed by random Palestinians. No, that's not what happened. But that's not going to stop all of them from lying. And we're not going to get any accountability because, again, our media is so embarrassing and so trash and so Zionist controlled that they're not going to correct it. They're not going to say shit. It's like, you know how I said one of those things that like you don't notice until you notice it? I never noticed how, I guess because I was raised the same way, how fucking Islamophobic our media is. Like the way that they just casually lie about the Palestinians, like it ain't no thing. And it's like, they're just lying about the ceasefire, lying about, oh, he's Hamas, they're Hamas. And they just lie and lie and lie and lie. And it's like, that's the first thing I saw when I got on Twitter today. They're already manufacturing consent in Western media so that when they start bombing Gaza again, they can go, yeah, but it was Hamas that broke the ceasefire. What do you want Israel to do? They've got to defend themselves. It's actually sick.
Yeah. You know what's funny? To the uneducated about this subject, they would think that the only Palestinians that are in the region that are fighting against Israel is Hamas. Whereas they're erasing the other 16 different groups that are also fighting as Palestinian resistance, one of them being the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP. Whereas Hamas is a more Islamic or Muslim group that is fighting for Palestinian liberation. The PFLP is actually a Marxist-Leninist group that's actually secular. It's secular, and they're fighting against what Israel's doing as far as occupation. So just out on its face, whenever they keep going Hamas, 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 they don't talk about the other groups as well. So they leave them out. On top of it, here's the thing. As far as this agreement is concerned, if I'm fighting, which is legal under international law, against occupation, and we come to an agreement, why the hell would I lay down my arms when we are literally a paramilitary force fighting a nuclear superpower that is occupying us and putting us under apartheid? Why in the hell would I agree to lay down my arms? What do you think that the Palestinians are stupid?
Right. And that just goes again back to the racism, the Islamophobia, the white supremacy, because would you ever if I try to explain that to an American in a white context, give me your guns. What do you think they would say? That's how I try to explain it to people who don't that's how I try to explain it to people who don't understand. Let me tell you, as a white person, John in San Antonio, that you need to give your guns to the government, even though they're not even violating any of your rights. We're just going to say we're going to give them to you. How do you think John in San Antonio would respond to being told he needs to
What did Charlton Heston say? Out of my cold, dead hands.
Right. So you wouldn't expect, and you wouldn't find it acceptable for the government to come tread on you and take your guns, just like you wouldn't accept a bunch of random people coming in and just taking your house from you like they do to the people in the occupied West Bank. So I said to somebody I was arguing with once, just pretend they're white for a moment. Pretend that they're white, and then imagine the government going and telling them to do that, and then see how much you like it. Because that's really what it comes down to. You're stupid on purpose, because if you were to imagine that they were white, then you wouldn't have a hard time understanding that why the fuck would they lay down their arms to a nuclear superpower? Be fucking serious. Not only that, but I'm so sorry. Every accusation being a confession, why is the Israeli regime allegedly scared of these people who have no house? They've got no fucking weapons. They have no military. You have weapons. You have a military. You're backed by the United States. You have nuclear weapons, and you're mixed scared. I don't think so. This is ridiculous. You're not scared of them. Like, it is so actually absurd. And the reason why they don't ever want to talk about any of the secular groups in Gaza is because they understand, being so Islamophobic themselves and the indoctrination into Islamophobia that we have in the West, it sounds a lot scarier if you say that they're Muslims than it does if you just say they're secular Palestinians. Like, people will still be racist against them, but it doesn't have that extra of scary Muslim if you don't add in Hamas. Like,
you know what? This is a really good point that Sean Miller brought out. He said, isn't Hamas actually is al-Din al-Qasim brigades? Yes, that is the military wing of Hamas. Hamas also has a political wing, just like you have the Democrats and Republicans. Hamas is actually a political party.
Right. And the governing body of Gaza up until this point that they were negotiating with, and that Israel bombed the negotiators.
Yeah, out in Doha in Qatar. In Qatar, I'm sorry.
I think it is. I've been corrected when I said Qatar, and people were like, "No, it's Qatar." I'm like, I honestly don't know, because I've heard it both ways, and I don't know which is like the right way to say it. But I've heard both.
So,
but
semantics here.
Yeah,
I've heard Arabs pronounce it Qatar. That's how I hear them pronounce it, and so the only reason why I pronounce it the American way is because I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to be snooty. You know what I mean?
no.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's Qatar.
I would
Qatar.
say Qatar, or I would say Qatar.
Yeah, I think it's like it's pronounced like Cutter. I think it's pronounced that way, but
that's what I thought. But then I got corrected. And people were like, it's not Qatar, it's Qatar. But you know what's so funny about you saying that, bro, is that I literally, that is me. That is me. When I try to pronounce things, I try to pronounce it the correct way, but I always still say it in an American accent because I never want to come across as one of those douchebags. That's like, oh, we're going to go to France and then we're going to get a croissant. It's like, okay, well, I'm American, so I'm not going to say it like that because I don't want to sound like a douche, but I also want to try to pronounce it the correct way, but like, in an American accent, because to me it's like, where do you draw the line between like you want to pronounce it the right way and you want to respect people's cultures? Where do you veer from that and then into cultural appropriation and douchebaggery? Like, it's like trying to, like, I don't know.
I think it depends on the inflection. If you're just trying to get the pronunciation correct, the people of that culture will understand you're trying to get it correct. If I said, oh, it's in Qatar, then people will be like, what do you mean by that? Right? But if I pronounce it correctly, you know, with just a normal speaking tone without having any particular inflections, then they'll go, oh, okay, yeah. He's trying to say it correctly while honoring our culture. I think that's the point. So it's just like, for instance, and I know we're diverging a little bit, but we'll get back to it. But there was a lady who drove me to dialysis through the paratransit, and she's like, and I was like, well, what's your name? She said, well, my name is Dwaynia, but everybody calls me D. Because within the Black culture, a lot of names that are made and given to us, a lot of people, particularly a lot of white people, are like, oh, well, I can't pronounce that. Can we just call you something shorter? I take it as, no, I'm not going to pronounce it the shortened form. I'm going to honor your name by learning how to pronounce it correctly. Because if I can say Schwarzenegger, or if I can say Chalamet, I can say Dwaynia. I can say Quantavious. I can say these words.
That's the thing. It's about what I mean when I say pronounce it. I mean, I don't want to do it with the accent. Like, I wouldn't say Schwarzenegger trying to have like an Austrian accent, but I'll try to say it correctly. Like, first of all, I'm all about always trying to make sure I pronounce people's names right. I've always felt that way because my sisters have very strange names that are hard for people to pronounce. And it would always bug me when they would pronounce my sister's name wrong and my sister wouldn't correct them because she didn't feel like dealing with it. So like, she just wouldn't bother correcting them. That always bugged me. I always try to pronounce people's names correctly. I just don't add the accent because I feel like adding the accent. Like, somebody actually said, well, why aren't you saying France? Well, because I'm American. I'm not going to call it France or croissant when I'm American. It just sounds cringe. But when it comes to a name, I will always try to pronounce people's names correctly. But I like without an accent, because to me the accent makes it like I'm not going to be like Timothy Chalamet. I'm going to try to say Charlemagne correctly, but I'm not going to add an accent.
That's fair. That's fair. So let's continue.
Sorry, I know I got derailed, but I just go on.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, let's continue. Let's hear what this gentleman has to say.
Keston, I mean, I give Trump enormous credit here. I think he's done something which I don't think any other American president at this moment could have done. He's brought Netanyahu.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, oh my gosh, I can't with the ass kissing from Piers Morgan. He is always kissing Trump's ass. Yeah, but don't you need to give Trump a lot of credit? He's done something no one has ever done before. It's like, put your tongue back in your mouth, bro. It's embarrassing.
Also, he's saying, I've never seen a president actually do this in recent memory. And I'm just like, are you forgetting Ronald Reagan when he actually called, to force a ceasefire?
Right. Like,
I mean, Ronald Reagan did it.
It's not only not true, but he does this all the time where he's constantly pressing his guests to give Trump credit and kiss Trump's ass. It's like, you're embarrassing, Piers, but do you condemn Hamas Morgan? Because you're supposed to be a journalist, okay? Like, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
All right. Let me see here. All right, we'll go back just a couple of seconds and then we'll continue.
Something which I don't think any other American president at this moment could have done. He's brought Netanyahu to heel. I think the catalyst for it actually was the incredibly ill-advised attack by Israel on Doha when they tried to take out the Hamas negotiators, which was a failed mission. They didn't kill the negotiators. They killed a member of the Qatari security forces. They killed some other people who were totally unconnected with Hamas. A complete debacle. And when I read that Donald Trump had made Netanyahu literally get on the phone and apologize to the Prime Minister of Qatar for that, I thought, wow, things have changed. And, sure enough, here we are, not long after that catastrophic error of judgment by Netanyahu, with him seemingly brought to heel. And I think that is what's happened.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate characterization. First of all, it's good to see you. It's been a while. I miss getting yelled at 7 a.m, so good to be back. The fact that Donald Trump did not receive the Nobel Peace Prize is a damning indictment on the state of the Nobel Peace Committee, but I digress. You're absolutely right. Amit Segal was the one who said that the strike in Doha is the most successful failed assassination attempt. I would agree with you. It was ill-advised, but inadvertently, it actually brought Hamas to the negotiating table, because one of the differences between the ceasefire now and the ceasefire of a year ago is, for the first time, Hamas was pressured by Qatar, who's hosting them, by Egypt, by Syria, by Turkey. That is not the status quo of a year ago. That is a direct result of peace through strength. As President Teddy Roosevelt said, you talk softly, but you carry a big stick. So while it is true Israel was trying to negotiate with Hamas for the better part of 2 years, it is also true that they had a really good incentive, Hamas, that is, for negotiating, meaning they will no longer be accustomed to living in the Four Seasons in Doha, and they will be forced to be given a negotiation. And I think this is what all the far left, this is what the campus activists, this is what the cultural elites have been saying for 2 years. We need a ceasefire now. We need to end the war. This is literally what happened. And it's quite a testament to the fact that they are not celebrating in the streets, which I think underscores it was never about a ceasefire or peace. It was always about the actual genocide against the Jewish state, which occurred on October 7th. If it wasn't about that, then how come all these peace-loving activists aren't encouraging Hamas to surrender immediately? I kind of agree with Anna. This deal could have been done on October 8th had Hamas simply surrendered and released the hostages. Unfortunately, through human agency, they decided not to.
Yeah, General.
Before Anna hands him his ass, I would like for you to respond to this, because please.
Yeah, this guy is such a fucking clown. Like, the way that they just lie so, like, about everything. Like, the way they just so casually lie. What do you mean? He goes, oh, they offered to have a ceasefire on October 8th if they would have just handed the hostages back. Hamas did offer to hand the hostages back on October 8th. They said, we will give you all your hostages back if you don't invade Gaza. And they said, kick fucking rocks. We don't care. We're going to go and invade Gaza anyway. So that is just a lie. That is just a lie. And then also he lied about saying, oh no, this was because Doha finally pressured Hamas. No, this was because Doha finally pressured Trump. That's what it was. Being like, oh my gosh. Like, and Trump actually cares about Qatar and the having a good relationship with them. And so that is actually what happened. Also, what do you mean brought Netanyahu to heel? Netanyahu wasn't brought to heel. Trump was. That's why Trump is standing up in the Knesset, kissing their asses, talking about, oh, Miriam Adelson, you and your husband came in and lobbied me and I gave you everything you wanted after you gave me money. And they're standing there giving him a standing ovation. And also him saying the thing about the Peace Prize. This is a joke. Also, like the Peace Prize, like the Presidential Medal of Freedom, doesn't really have any meaning anymore. Like the fact that that terrorist Daniela Weiss got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, be serious. Like, and Trump is trying to start a war with Venezuela. So all of it's a lie. Also, the last thing I want to trash that guy for saying is, words do have meanings. You don't just throw the word genocide on October 7th. Are you kidding me? The Palestinians do not have the capacity. They don't have the power to have tried to genocide anybody, okay? The idea that the October 7th attack, that's what it was. It was an attack. It was a breakout of the concentration camp and an attack, a military attack, or attack on their military. They don't even have an operational military. The idea that that was somehow an attempted genocide is a joke. It makes a mockery of the term genocide. Genocide is what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. But of course, nobody corrects him. They just let him spew that garbage unabated. It's just like, that guy is an absolute fucking clown. It's amazing how you can look so dorky and unassuming and be like a genocidal terrorist lover. Like this insane hack, Kasparian, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's continue on.
Like, look at him. He looks like a giant
from
dwarf.
a military perspective.
I'm not. Look, I'm not going to get. I told myself I'm going to try to be good. Blakeley, fam, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to be. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Blakeley, look, hang on, hold on. I want you to take me seriously. Look into my eyeballs. I'm trying to be good right now.
I'm sorry. I was trying to. I'm sorry. I was trying to drag you down to my level.
All right, let's continue.
Okay.
Perspective. It seemed to me that the Doha attack backfired spectacularly for Israel, and it also enraged all the leaders of neighboring Arab countries. And I think they were all on the phone to President Trump and telling him this has crossed a line. And at that point, Trump, I think, got very serious with Netanyahu. I mean, listen, I might be wrong. It's just my gut feeling. Got on the phone to Netanyahu and said, enough. This has to end. What is your...
That was the line? You mean the estimated over 680,000 Palestinians being massacred in a 21st century Holocaust? That wasn't the line, but a missile hitting a few Qatari people in Doha, that was the line?
And he says it like it's normal. No outrage. And also he concedes that Trump could have called Netanyahu 10 months ago. Like, it's insane. I know. It's insane.
Look, I usually don't drink alcohol, but right now I wish I had some liquor in this water bottle. I'm telling you. Ooh, these people.
I know. It's insane.
All right, let's continue.
Your reading of why things have come to a head seemingly so quickly after that attack?
Well, I think Shabbos was right. In many ways, it was the most successful failed attempt around. But the fact still remains that they did get on the phone. They did call Trump. Trump also turned to them and said, okay, if you want Netanyahu to knock this off, then you guys have got to be part of this process. And if you don't want Israel attacking Hamas wherever they are, in Doha or Turkey or some of the Muslim Brotherhood organizations in Egypt, you need to get on the bandwagon. You need to start pressuring Hamas. So he's right. This was the most successful, unsuccessful attack, because I think what it did, it not only pressured Israel, but it also pressured the Arab leaders to start clamping down on Hamas and get them to the negotiating table.
Hang on. As far as this whole, like, oh, well, all these Arab leaders, they are going to be pressuring them. Are we really going to take our cues from Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, now they're pressuring them.
Like, no, because here's the thing. Saudi Arabia looks out for Saudi Arabia.
Right. Right.
They don't look out for other people, at least not in a real material way. Not like Iran looks out for Palestinians, not like Yemen looks out for Palestinians, not like the Lebanese and with Hezbollah that look out for Palestinians. No, the rest of these Arab leaders have actually turned their back on Palestinians for the sake of wanting to still deal with the United States and Israel, because honestly, they're too scared to actually fight for real liberation.
Right. Or they're corrupt, which is why I don't take it seriously when they're like, oh, look, they're working together. They're going to sign a peace deal in Egypt. It's like, you mean Egypt? That's the second highest funding of foreign states that we give money to is Egypt. Egypt and their corrupt ass leader. Really? That's who you want us to think? Like, they're acting like it's neutral. They're acting like there's some neutral arbiter here when the U.S. is basically like Israel's mafia lawyer. And then the other people are just going along for the ride to ensure that they don't get hurt.
Yeah. Like, for instance, this was a great point by Joey Peltier, friend of the channel. He says the Saudis could end all of this by which upholds the U.S. petrodollar. I'm just saying. Boom! Right there.
Yeah.
Saudis could stop this today.
Did you see this actually reminds me of that Washington Post leak. Did you see that article that came up from the Washington Post that said that it was leaked that private communications between the U.S. and Israel and Arab leaders that were actually like all having conversations amongst themselves, working together while pretending to be standing up for the Palestinians? Like, that was something I actually had to learn over time that really bummed me out, was thinking that like all the Arab states were going to be on the side of the Palestinians when really a lot of them don't fucking care either.
This is what happens when you have puppets as leaders. This is what happened in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
You have many, like, for instance, look what's going on in Rwanda. Look at what's going on in Kenya right now. You have William Ruto is basically a puppet of the United States, Canada, and France, and he is leading Kenyan soldiers to try to take over Haiti right now. And so there's all the it's what they do is that they put in their puppets so that they can be able to have access to those resources. And this is ultimately what they want to do with Palestine. Like, if they can't completely eliminate Palestinians out of the region, then they're going to try to get puppets in there to allow them to extract the resources in that way. But they can't do it if there's Palestinian resistance leading things. And this is why they want to get rid of not just Hamas, but also all the other Palestinian resistance forces.
Yeah. They want it's like what you were saying about what they did to Haiti. They basically go in there, they trash the place, murder a bunch of people, destabilize it. Then when there's issues and people that rise up and there's that destabilization, they turn around and go, why can't Haiti govern themselves? Why can't they get their shit together? It's like, oh, I don't know. Probably because you keep going in there and killing their leaders and installing puppets and creating chaos. And then you turn around and go, it reminds me of that Breaking Points thing where that idiot racist Matt Walsh was like, why can't Haiti get their shit together? And Ryan Grimm was like, have you paid attention to what has happened in Haiti over the last 50 years? Like, and you're right. That is exactly what they were trying to do to Palestine. It's insane. But then they turn around and they victim blame and go, why can't they get their shit together? Look at the chaos in Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The chaos that's happening continuously in all these different states that really the United States actually has its hands in.
Yeah, Syria. And then now all of a sudden the US, which were very concerned about terrorism, is now besties with somebody that was like used to be in Al-Qaeda. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It doesn't make any sense. So let's continue on here.
Everybody seems to agree, General Kimmett, that Hamas will have no role in any government going forward. Where there is a serious point of disagreement is over whether Hamas disarms. This has been part of the Trump plan, the 21-point plan, but Hamas has said they're not intending to disarm. The ideology that fuels Hamas is still clearly there in a number of people. Hamas have clearly not been completely destroyed. We know that because they're still operating. What happens now? I mean, how likely is it that Hamas will disarm?
Well, it's even worse than that right now. The fact remains that their spokesmen are saying that Hamas will not disarm and, in fact, will be the core of any future Palestinian army. In fact, what we're saying is that whatever organization takes over inside of Gaza, whatever form of government, whether it's the PLO or some other organization, they will be the militia that defends them. And any notion of Hamas somehow taking off their Hamas uniforms and putting on police uniforms is just a recipe for failure.
So what?
Hang on. So you mean to tell me that the group that is literally kicking the ass of the IOF and a tracksuit and sandals, they are the ones that are beating that? Because look, whenever the Israelis have to do on the ground assaults, they get their asses handed to them. This is why they're always bombing.
Yes.
You mean to tell me that these guys who have all this resilience and they're actually fighting for the people of Palestine, and especially in Gaza, you wouldn't want them to stay in their post and protecting the Palestinian people if there was ever a two-state solution? Because when a two-state solution, a lot of people don't realize this, it involves also Palestine having a formal army, a formal military force. So let's be real. Anybody who talks about a two-state solution who is a Zionist, they don't actually believe in a two-state solution. Because if a two-state solution actually happened, that means that Palestine will actually have their own formal army as well, which means Israel cannot advance any further whatsoever. And on top of it, it will stop the Greater Israel Project, which Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to expand for years.
Right.
So ultimately, it was never about actually having peace in the region. Peace just means quiet for white supremacists and Zionists. That's all it means. They want you to die quietly. And that's basically what it is.
Right. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention in that guy's annoying response, that Shabos guy. And you hear Zionists a lot of times say it. What happened to all the peace activists? I thought they were all peace activists. I'm like, you guys are outdated as fuck. This isn't the 90s. No one ever called ourselves people who advocate for Palestine peace activists. I don't want peace in the way that white Westerners mean it. We want justice. That is not the same thing, brah.
Look, like Kwame Ture said, he said, peace is the white man's word. We want liberation.
Right. And that is what they mean when they say peace. Like what you said a minute ago. They mean shut up and die quietly.
I'm gonna share this because since a lot of these people, especially the liberals, they like to use this particular phrase and say, oh, we want peace. I think that we should defer to what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, true peace is not merely in the absence of tension. It is in the presence of what? Justice.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is justice? Wouldn't justice mean repair, bringing things back to the way they were before the damage was done? that being said, then what real peace means, it is bringing the borders of Palestine back to pre-1948 levels.
Yes.
I didn't say 1967. I said pre-1948, because ultimately that's when the disaster started. Because when the theft started, when the theft happened, that's the injustice. So therefore, if you want to restore justice, you have to give back to what was taken or stolen from the Palestinian people. That means the homes, the land, the borders, all of it.
But what's
People
so
are trying to negotiate. Like, how in the hell am I going to allow you to come into my house and steal my stuff, and then I negotiate with you to give back some of my stuff while you get to keep the rest?
But what's so crazy about, I know it's so crazy, but what's even crazier is that Palestinians, including Hamas, have actually said, fine, we'll agree to 1967 borders. But that's never enough for them, because
no, it's not.
Because every accusation is a confession, and they never wanted a two-state solution. They never wanted peace. They never wanted the 1967 borders. They want more and more and more and more and more. They want all of it. They want the beaches of Gaza. They want all of it. It's never enough for them. It is a constant expansion. So they lie when they say, like, oh, we just want peace. You know, it's like, no, you guys are the ones that put in your fucking Likud charter that you want from the river to the sea. So even the concessions that the Palestinians were willing to make, they're like, no, not good enough.
They're really making major concessions just so that the people won't starve and die.
Yeah.
And Israel is dangling that in front of their faces and going, oh, well, if you guys really want, you know, this peace, then you guys got to agree to this. But then guess what? They agree to it. And then Israel goes, psych. And then they shell them, or they bomb them, or they gun them down.
Well, that's the thing that I think is so sick about it, is that it's like, even the negotiations that people try to do, they fuck them over anyway. Like, it reminds me of like the things like you hear or you read about what happened to the indigenous people here, and that after they were displaced from their land and stolen from, there were so many times where indigenous tribes tried to negotiate with the US government and be like, okay, fine, just do this. And the US government would be like, all right, JK, we're not going to abide by the thing we just negotiated with you. We're going to break that too. Like, it's so crazy.
Yep, absolutely. I want to finish this, and I really want to get to Aaron Mate's response as well, because I really want to get into that, because Aaron Mate comes with the facts, and I really want to get him in as well.
What happens here? I mean, how do you get to peace, proper peace? How do you get to the potential of the start of a process for a genuine two-state solution if the terrorists that committed the atrocities on October the 7th stay around, stay armed, and say, we're going to be the militia for whoever governs this place?
Well, I think you've answered your own question. The fact remains is that cannot happen as long as you have a radical terrorist organization devoted to the destruction of Israel, somehow representing themselves as a national defense force. They'll just turn into another Hezbollah and turn the next Gaza into southern Lebanon. So it won't work.
So here's my thing. Like, okay, so he's basically saying something to the effect of, well, you know, they are a terrorist organization. Hang on. If you keep hitting me and you keep hitting me and you keep hitting me, and I finally fight back, am I in the wrong after enduring your constant hits for a long time and I finally fight back? Am I?
It depends. What color are you?
Good question. Great question.
That's really the answer. It depends. Because if you're white, then you're a heroic resistance fighter. But if you're not, it reminds me of, you know, the meme with the different shades. It's like the what is it? It's the Family Guy meme where he's holding up the like like passport, and it's like basically like the different shades decide whether or not you're actually defending yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's continue. I think he's about to get the Aaron Mate.
So what happens?
Well, I think we know. We've seen this show before. We know what's going to happen.
But he won't give the answer.
Right.
Oh, we know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Right.
Go on.
You sure do.
Well, I think we're going to see a continuation of military operations, special operations, until Hamas does in fact either disarm or, as has so often happened in the past, get on a boat and go to Tunisia or somewhere like that. There is no room inside of Gaza as part of a future two-state solution where they represent the military for that country.
But here's the crazy part. They keep talking about two-state solution. The hell, a two-state solution? Number one, there's never going to be a two-state solution. Number one. Secondly, with a one-state solution, they don't want that. The Zionists don't want that, because that would mean that the Palestinians, especially the people in Gaza, would have equal standing according to all the laws with them. And they don't want that, because guess what? They are afraid that the Palestinians will not want equality. They'll want revenge, similar to another people here in the United States.
Which, again, is just projection. They have no basis for that belief. But also it's the revenge thing, but it's also, by definition, their ethno-supremacist state depends on them being the majority.
True. Very true. Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you very much for that. All right. And let's get to this.
Mate, I saw Tony Blair, who's a contentious name at the moment because he wants to be part of the interim government, if you like, or administrative body looking over Gaza until they have a new government. And Donald Trump has said, I don't know if he's popular enough to be involved, so we'll see how that plays out. But he was talking about the parallels with Northern Ireland, where he did forge peace with Bill Clinton, with Senator Mitchell and others. And he was talking about that, ultimately, these things go one of two ways. When you have neighboring people who've been in long-time conflict with each other, they either continue to be in long-time conflict or they get to a point of genuinely wanting peace. And as part of that peace process, the IRA did disarm. So there is a parallel here for terror groups, as the IRA were, for disarming in the cause of peace. But is it likely that Hamas is ever going to want to see it like that? They seem a very nihilistic group who have been wedded publicly to destroying Israel. They said it after October the 7th through their spokesman on camera. We want to keep doing this. Is there any likelihood, do you think, of this following the similar path that we saw in Northern Ireland?
Well, first of all, my problem with Tony Blair putting aside his record as a war criminal with this analogy to Ireland is, in the case of Ireland, you don't have a dispute about the recognition of people's right to self-determination. That sort of underpins the conflict. There's an awareness there that in Ireland that the people of Northern Ireland are a people who have certain rights. In the case of Palestine, as we're discussing here, what I'm hearing from Mark and Shabbos is a complete lack of awareness. The Palestinians are living under a brutal military occupation. Either you recognize that or you don't. If you don't recognize that, you're going to have continued disaster for the entire region and continued misery, foremost for the Palestinian people. If you recognize, as most of the world does, pretty much the entire world, with the exception of the US and Israel, the Palestinians have been living under one of the most brutal, longest military occupations in the world and have been denied their basic rights. If you don't recognize that, you're not going to solve the problem. And Trump's so-called peace plan does nothing to address that. When it comes to the issue of Palestine self-determination and Palestinian statehood, there's one line. It says, we recognize Palestinian self-determination and statehood as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. If you recognize something as an aspiration, but not as a right, you have no obligation to grant it. And the message from Israel, if you listen to Netanyahu, is that there will be no recognition. And he has the full backing of the US in that. And that's not just a Trump thing. This has been bipartisan U.S. policy for decades to reject the one thing that could solve all this is grant Palestinians their minimal right to freedom. And so in that context, people want to make this about Hamas and how they have no right to be there. This isn't about Hamas. Even if Palestinians are the most pragmatic, docile people in the world, Israel would still insist, as they always have, on their self-declared right to steal their land because it's a Jewish supremacist state. Until that's resolved, you're going to have perpetual conflict. And just one correction on the issue of whether there could have been a deal. After October 7th, Hamas offered Israel to release all the civilian captives in exchange for Israel not attacking Gaza. Israel had no interest in that because October 7th gave them the opportunity to take care of the Gaza problem, as Norman Finkelstein has talked about on your show before. Destroying Gaza, expelling as many people as possible. That's why Israel abandoned its own captives. And that's why, and Anna was correct to say, there was a deal on the table well over a year ago. Israeli negotiator Gershon Baskin, it was years of contacts with Hamas. He's confirmed this. Hamas accepted the exact same deal that was just accepted now.
But
So, look, all this to say that I think Hamas gave a lot more leeway to Israel than, and look, I'm not Palestinian, and I don't want to be this paternalistic Westerner that tells people what they should and shouldn't do. But from my standpoint, Palestinians have been way more than long-suffering with the Zionists. They have been way more than long-suffering. Really, I'll be honest with you, the Palestinians were the adults in the room.
Yeah. And they've put up with a lot more than most I think would certainly, and they've endured so much more than so many people. I what I really liked about everything he said there was on point, but what I really liked that he pointed out was there is a denial of the occupation by the Zionists. They hate talking about that. They don't ever want to acknowledge that there is an occupation of Palestine, that they're the military occupiers of it. They just pretend, like the way they act is they pretend like they're on equal footing. They pretend like it's like a Ukraine-Russia situation where like Ukraine is its own state, Russia's its own state. They both have militaries. The Ukraine has the backing of the US, but they both are sovereign. That's how they act. That's how they talk about it. There's never an honest acknowledgement that the Palestinian people are subjects of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things I want to do is because there was a Palestinian journalist that was murdered. And this was during the ceasefire. So I want to make sure that I show this, but I'm not going to show him after he has passed. I'm going to show him alive. And one of the things that I want to do, and credit to the Palestinian activists that have been teaching me so well, especially to the Florida Palestine Network. Shout out to all of you who have been teaching me. I want to show the humanity of Palestinians, that I want to show them in their full humanity. I want to share with you guys this video. If you feel something at all, anybody in the audience, if you feel something, that's good. If you get misty-eyed, if you shed a tear, that's a good thing, because that means that your humanity is still there. So I want to share this. I'm going to read the caption and then we'll play the video. The caption says, journalist Saleh al-Jafarawi, sorry if I butchered his name, my apologies dearly, says he was kidnapped by Israeli-backed gangs in Gaza City. They fired 7 bullets and killed him, while his only weapon was his camera. He was smeared and targeted for 2 years during the genocide. May his memory be blessed. And here he is in his full humanity. this was, Blakeley, this hurt, especially because I've been watching this man for 2 years, repeatedly reporting. I've seen and heard bombs drop around him with tears in his eyes and running. And right when he's celebrating a ceasefire, he's celebrating it, he gets murdered. And so when I say, what ceasefire? And they'll say, oh, well, he was killed by his own people. Here's the crazy part. I don't care if a black man was killed by black police officers. They are black second, they are blue first. You don't think that doesn't happen within Palestine? Like, people just they don't think about these things.
People don't question things. They just accept it. They just accept it, and they don't question just like basic shit. And the ironic thing about it is a lot of people, I question things. Well, then just sit there and not question anything and just like accept whatever some propagandist is saying. And yeah, that was really hard to watch. That was really hard to watch, especially since, as you said, like just him being so ever present on all of our screens the last 2 years, and to see him celebrate the ceasefire just to be murdered a day later. It's just upsetting. It's not fair. I know that life isn't fair, but it's still hard to like process that and be like, why? Like, why? It's not fair. Like, could he not have lived out of all the journalists that they've murdered? They couldn't have left him alone after everything he endured?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to share this as well, because there was another Palestinian journalist that was murdered. Anas al-Sharif, that was murdered earlier, just a few weeks ago. And him and al-Sharif were actually good friends.
Yeah.
And as we see it, the reunion between them was very heartfelt. One would say they were probably like brothers. So I had to mute it because I don't want to get a copyright claim because of the music. But this is Palestinian culture.
Yeah.
This is what Palestinian resistance is trying to protect. And a lot of people do not want to acknowledge this. That they are a beautiful people who just want their land and houses and want to live in peace. And most of Hamas are actually orphans. And the question is, why are they orphans?
Right.
Why are they orphans? Why are they so angry?
Right. And they don't ask that, and they don't ask why, to me, that video is not only beautiful and a beautiful representation of Palestinian culture, but it also answers the question why they're constantly terrorizing them. Look at that beach, that beautiful beach that they're on. They just happen to be born in a place that these colonizers want. And so they now have to suffer this extermination attempt because they don't want to leave where they were born.
Yeah. And so my heart goes out to him and his family. His father, there's video of his father, over his, slain body. Yeah. And
it's honestly horrifying that it really upset. I never saw dead people like this before watching the Gaza genocide.
Yeah.
I think that also, like, just watching videos of Palestinians doing things like hugging and talking also gave, when I was first learning about this, a totally different perspective I hadn't seen before. I never saw them before. Like, I never actually saw videos of them talking, hanging out, just doing everyday things before. They were always just presented as, like, you know, scary terrorists. And then it's like, you watch the videos of them just interacting with each other, and you're like, wait, we're supposed to be scared of these people? We're supposed to be scared of these people. These kids, these moms, these just random guys hanging out. And then also, like, then when I saw the video after they killed Saleh, it's just like, and all the videos I've seen of the dead Palestinians, that's one of the things that is so painful about it too, is like how different people look when they're dead. They look so different. He did not, like, he was yellow. Like, it just, you don't, just the life being gone. It's so painful to watch. But then the one thing that kind of gives me a little bit of comfort is that they're so strong in their faith. They put out a statement afterwards that he had put out saying, like, if I die, if I am martyred. And that comforts me slightly, because I know that they had such strong faith, but it's also hard just on a human level to, like, look at how different they look when they are dead. I thought, I've seen this a lot. Like, I saw photos of, you know, obviously so many Palestinians that have been martyred, but there was that American that went to go protest in the occupied West Bank. Her name is Eggy. I don't want to, like, I'm messing up her name, but she was the Turkish American who went to the occupied West Bank to Palestine, Ayşenur Eggy. And when she was killed, there was like a video of her, and she just looked like almost like a different person. When the life is out of somebody, they don't look the same. Like, it's just, it's just upsetting. Yeah, it's.
Yeah. Let me share this as well. And while we're talking about, because I really want to show the video of Israelis that were hostages talking about their experience being hostages under Palestinian resistance. But if I play it, I might get taken down by YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say, careful.
But I will tell you this. There was an interview with a lady, and she was Israeli. She talked about how on the day of October 7th, Palestinian resistance, Hamas came over. And she was afraid. And Hamas said, you don't have to worry. We don't hurt women and children. And he said, is that a banana? And she's like, yeah. He's like, may I have it? He asked consent to get the banana. She said yes. And he had the banana. And they chatted and they laughed. And then they left her. There's video literally of hostages, Israeli hostages being released, and Israelis giving Hamas forehead kisses for how well they were treated while being hostages. Hamas was giving away goodie bags to Israeli prisoners.
That's the power of propaganda. That's the power of propaganda, though, because when Israel says things like, when Zionists get on media and go, we saw all these videos from October 7th that they're making up, like, they'll just be making it up and making up a video that doesn't exist, and no one questions it. They'll go, oh, we saw them burning up 3 babies alive. That didn't happen. But they'll go, we all saw it, right? No, we didn't all see it. You just made that up.
Yeah. I want to share this. This is a Palestinian hostage that was released that's recounting what he went through by the Israelis.
وجع 2 سنين وانا جوعان، انا طلعت من هون جوعان، وانسجنت جوعان، وطلعت جوعان، اقسم بالله انه ما بناكل ولا بنشرب ونشبح عريانين، واحنا بيشبحونا عريانين، بيشبحونا ليل ونهار، لحتى اليوم هم قاعدين بيجرحوا فينا.
So I want to read what he's saying. He says, he said, for 2 years, I've been starving. I went to prison hungry and I came out hungry. I swear we don't eat or drink. We're sick, tortured day and night, suffering every kind of physical and mental abuse. They threaten us with our children. So this is what they're going through in Israeli prisons. So you have this happening, whereas the people who were, hostages under under Palestinian, under Palestinians, they were treated well. And so this just goes to show that, the Palestinians could have done the same thing the Israelis did. And Israelis wanted the Palestinians to do that, because then that would be more of a propaganda for Israel to wipe Palestinians off the map. Mm-hmm. But instead, no, they didn't do that. And another thing I want to point out, and I'm going to let you go because you've been extremely generous with your time. But a lot of times people talk about, oh my God, the women and children of Palestine and how they've been treated. Mm. There was a book that I'm trying to get into that they're reading at the Florida Palestine Network and as part of their book club. And it's called Perfect Victims by Mohammed El-Kurd. And one of the things that he talks about is a lot of times people will focus on the women and children, but you also take agency away from the Palestinian women and saying, oh, well, they're not part of the resistance, when in reality they are too. And on top of that, the men, their lives have just as much weight as everybody else, because they were once kids, their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their sons. So therefore, this is why I try to be careful with my language and say, you know what? Any life is precious. And that's one thing I learned, especially from Florida Palestine Network, which I appreciate very much. And this is one of the reasons why I also decided to say a happy birthday to George Floyd, because even if he did do a few bad things, he should not be murdered by the state. Palestinians should not be murdered by the state of Israel for existing.
Right. It's an absurdity and it's a double standard. Because, of course, if it were whatever white person that did something, everybody's like, yeah, but he's just a boy, even if he's 40. And they'll be like, yeah, but like it's not. But then when it's George Floyd, all of a sudden it's, yeah, but he committed crimes. Who gives a fuck? That's not the point. You don't get to kill someone because they committed a crime. That's what jail is for, bitch. That's what court is for. Like, it's just crazy. But I feel the same way, which is why I stopped doing that. I used to do the women and children thing too. Not only did I stop doing that because it totally dehumanizes the men and makes it like it's okay to murder them, but also I find the Palestinian men incredibly inspiring. These guys are heroes. These guys are in their fucking flip-flops, digging animals and children out from rubble with nothing. Like the heroism of the Palestinian men. They're amazing, and they deserve to be just as protected and celebrated as the women and the children. I get it. I get the impulse to do that because you see this, women and children, they seem more helpless, more innocent. Men are stronger. Men are the ones historically that fight in war. So, like, I get the reason why people do it, and well-meaning people do it because they're trying to get people to be sympathetic. But I look at it differently now that what once people started in the same way that you were talking to me about it and being like, no, like it does take away agency from the women. But even the women that are helpless and the guys that are fighting or the guys that are out there, these are heroic men that you hear stories about Palestinian men. And I have read stories and talked to people where they said these men, so that their women and children could have some food, walked over 2 miles to go to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, risking their lives so that they could get some bread or some flour for their family. Like, these guys are heroic. And they shouldn't have to be, but they deserve, just like everybody else, to live. You don't have a right to murder a 20-year-old Palestinian man because he's of military age.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I am so happy you joined me for this because you added a lot of levity to the conversation. I just want to thank you for that. Also, I know that you are also wanting to make a quick announcement as well as something that you're trying to do if you would like to. And I also, to anybody who's watching, I also put Blakeley's link tree in the description down below as well. But go ahead, please.
Thank you. So yeah, if you guys want to follow me on any of my platforms, thank you for doing that. The last thing I want to say, aside from thank you so much for having me, this has been a great conversation. I really loved it. I want to draw attention to a Palestinian man, a really wonderful Palestinian man who has been missing in Gaza since last Friday, October 10th. He is a veterinarian. He works with Sulala Animal Rescue, who, if anybody is watching this and you're not already following Sulala Animal Rescue, please do. They're the only operational animal rescue in Gaza. And the Moat is his name, Dr. Moat, and he has been the one who has been doing all the surgeries for the animals that have been hurt in Gaza. He has saved so many lives, and he has been missing. Last time he was seen was heading back to northern Gaza to the Jabalia neighborhood to try to find his old house, and they have not seen him since. We're really hoping that best case scenario, which is a sad best case scenario, that maybe he got arrested because they have not found his body yet. But the more time goes on and the more he hasn't come back, the more worried everyone is. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm just going to share his Instagram into the private chat with you. So maybe you can add it to the description in the live. He is still missing and people are looking for him. And what we're asking is that people continue to amplify everything that is happening with Sulala and their account and try to bring awareness. And if you're a content creator, speak about it, post about it. If you're not, just share the post about it and try to amplify the story, because there needs to be accountability and awareness, and we need to find out what happened to him. I'm calling out all the so-called animal rights activists and groups in the West that have said nothing about this. When they should be drawing attention to it too. It's really disgraceful that they haven't said anything about it. ASPCA, the American Veterinarian Association, has not said anything about this. We need to find out where he is. And so if anybody has any idea where he might be, if you know anybody in Gaza, if you've heard anything, please spread the word, because we have still not found him.
Ooh, yeah. And I've been seeing a lot of animals that have suffered in Gaza as well. I've seen Palestinians with their cats. I've seen one with Palestinians with their dog, and I mean, that dog looked like it's one of the sweetest dogs in the world. So calm, so relaxed. In fact, I will show this too, because this actually is kind of related as well. Because and I just shared the link to the Instagram in the chat as well. But his Saleh with a dog.
That's another lie that also the Zionists use to dehumanize Palestinians, is to claim that, Muslims are terrible to animals, that they're terrible to animals. They don't care about animals. And it's another disgusting lie. It's also meant to turn people in the West against them, because people know how we are in the West, especially white people, with our animals, with our dogs and our cats. and to me, it's another tactic to try to dehumanize them. They do amazing work. Sulala Animal Rescue does incredible work. In fact, most of the people that work at Sulala Animal Rescue, another thing they try to always lie about is say, oh, there's no Black Palestinians. No, there are Black Palestinians. Most of the people running Sulala Animal Rescue are Afro-Palestinians, actually. So like just more lies, more dehumanization. But yeah, they're an incredible organization. Also, this sweater that I'm wearing right now that says "Stop the Genocide." This is being done by oh, my dog. I don't know if you can read it, if you can see it. It's animalwag.org. They're on Instagram also as animalwag on Instagram. And they are also one of the only veterinary organizations that are in the West that started during this that are fighting for animals in Gaza and have been trying to get someone in Gaza when most of the outside Western organizations are ignoring it.
Yep. And just for anybody, here is Blakeley's link tree as well. It's also in the description down below. So you guys got all the links as well for Blakeley. And just as a, for anybody who doesn't know, side note, here's a little secret for y'all. I'm going to share with you right now in regards to Palestinians. They love cats. They love cats.
Yeah.
So if you got a cat, you can make friends with Palestinian real quick because they're cat lovers. So yeah.
Yeah, they do. So So again, if you guys are anybody who's seen this, please make sure you follow both those accounts on Instagram and talk about Dr. Muat because we still have not found him and we need to find him. And So thank you, Jay, again for having me. It was really great. I had a wonderful time speaking with you. And until next time.
There definitely will be a next time. And thank you so very much for being extremely generous with your time.
Yeah.
It is deeply appreciated.
It was great
a wonderful
time. Yes, it was great to be here. All right, everybody. I'll see you later. Free Palestine.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. 1.